So now it's time for some superbike racing, and well, the championship looking pretty close, as it's Ivan Silva that has a 4-point lead over American Kenny Noyes. Santiago Barragan in third place is 21 points adrift of Ivan Silva, so you could probably guess already both he and Carmelo Morales in fourth need to take a win here today and hope that other things fall in their fortune. In a moment though, we will take a look back at what happened in Portimao with the superbikes. Here you can see it was a two-race format back in Portimao. Carmelo Morales was back with us racing again, of course. He got himself injured earlier on in the year, which hampered his progress somewhat, but it was all to play for here. And right from the word go, it was four riders that got themselves at the sharp end, but certainly neatly poised even at this stage. Away from the lights there, you can see the number 22 BMW of Ivan Silva, but it was Robertino Pietri who also got away well, the Venezuelan rider on the Kawasaki. Number 9 there, his teammate, that Kenny Noyes, the American, and Carmelo Morales starting things off slowly to begin with, number 31 in fourth place. There's nothing really to split these guys. Robertino Pietri made a couple of errors later on. Ivan Silva managed to get himself up there. Further back though, you'll see in a moment, it was Angel Rodriguez that fell whilst trying to chase the top four, but some decent battles going on. And let me tell you, on 1000cc motorcycles, this Portimao circuit, a real test for the front runners of the championship. All the main protagonists were together. Ivan Silva though just opening the door there down into the hairpin to allow Carmelo Morales to go up the inside, and then the style, flair and experience of Morales shot to the front, and really he never looked back. In the background there, Robertino Pietri still in third place. Kenny Noyes just struggling to stay with this group. As they started to come round to put a few laps on people, then it was some decent moves by Ivan Silva, who managed to build a bit of a gap up over Robertino Pietri, but then Pietri had a few problems of his own there. Mechanical issues with that Kawasaki meant that he had to retire and get into the garage. Certainly not happy about that one little bit. However, it helped out his teammate Kenny Noyes in the championship, who managed to get himself another position. Further back there, it was Ivan Silva and Kenny Noyes. Noyes, despite having a major moment with one of the tail enders and almost going down, he still managed to pick up some vital points. It was Morales that won the first race, going across the line there ahead of Ivan Silva, who took 20 vital points. In third place it was Kenny Noyes. Further back, by the way, finishing in 7th overall, was Frenchman Axel Marin, who won the privateers race within this event here in Portimao. But Carmelo Morales, with that win, certainly put himself back in the frame with that outside chance still of becoming the CEV Repsol Superbike champion of 2014. We then went into race 2 with American Kenny Noyes, etc. on the grid, but here we are now back in Valencia. We'll talk about race 2 a little later on. Dylan, it's all to play for.
No, certainly. It's you know, we know it's going to be Ivan Silva versus Kenny Noyes, but depending on what happens there, it could also be Santiago Barragan versus Carmelo Morales. We know Morales has looked so strong all season, and I think today, you know, it very much is down to, you know, a lot of it is going to be down to Morales. We know Morales, his only chance is to win. The same goes for Barragan, whereas we know with Ivan Silva and Kenny Noyes, there are different variations as to how they could be taking that title. So you can argue that there's maybe a little bit more pressure on those two at the front, but we look at the pace, we look at what they've done so far all weekend, and yes, Barragan is on pole position, but Morales has just looked so consistent.
Yes, he has. Just to give you an idea as to exactly how it's worked out, Ivan Silva number 22, you've seen him in this one, the only rider realistically in the top 3 of the BMW cars as well, so throughout the season has just been so consistent. Finishes races, delivers. That's why he's got himself into this position. He's only won one race, and that was race 2.
Yeah, of course. You know, he's been on the podium. I think he's got about four third-place finishes. He's got a second-place finish, but it is that consistency. Whereas Noyes, on the other hand, he won 3 on a trot, then crashed out. Then it took him a little bit longer to get back up there. Morales, for me, has the most impressive record. You know, he obviously had a win, then a second place, and then got taken out in Aragon. Then he had this horrific crash in Barcelona where he broke both his ankles in turn 11. I remember that was on the last lap with him fighting with Noyes. Obviously then had to sit out Albacete and then came back and has won the last 3 in a row, and that's how he's put himself back in contention. So
there's 4 points in it between Ivan Silva and Kenny Noyes. Kenny, of course, the American on the Kawasaki Palmetto PL racing machine. Let's get ourselves down onto the grid, though. I believe that we're ready to talk to number 51.
Estamos con Santiago Barragán. Santiago, enhorabuena por la gran pole conseguida ayer en unas difíciles condiciones de viento y de frío en este circuito de Valencia. ¿Qué tal planteas la última carrera de la temporada?
Bueno, con muchas ganas de disfrutarla, ya que luego el invierno se hace largo. Y nada, estrategia hay más bien poca, intentar salir lo más rápido posible, a ver si podemos ganar la carrera, que va a ser complicada, pues yo creo que todos intentarán lo mismo y los rivales también están fuertes. Y bueno, esperemos hacer una buena carrera y terminar lo más arriba posible.
Gracias, suerte.
Well, that was Santiago Barragán telling us that he's certainly going to look to enjoy this race, because after this there's nothing and it's going to be a very long winter. He says obviously the tactic's going to be get away as well as possible and fight for the win, but he said it's not going to be easy because there will be a lot of other people trying to do the exact same thing as him. Yep, and here we are with Morales. Let's see what he has to say.
Estamos con Carmelo Morales, que está ultimando la preparación de las protecciones en las palmas de sus manos. Carmelo, remotas posibilidades, pero matemáticamente aún todo es posible. Tus opciones pasan por ganar y ver qué hacen tus rivales.
Bueno, eso dicen las matemáticas, ¿no? Lo veo muy remoto, ¿no? La verdad que no hemos pensado en ningún momento que podemos ser campeones. Vamos a trabajar, bueno, hemos trabajado otro fin de semana para intentar ganar la carrera. Y bueno, con el neumático de carrera, la verdad que me siento cómodo y el ritmo lo tenemos. O sea, que a ver si no cometemos ningún error y a ver si podemos luchar por ganar la carrera.
Gracias, suerte.
That was Carmelo Morales telling us there that yes, there's a mathematical chance, but he feels it's very remote. They're not really thinking about the win as such. They said they just got to go out there, put the work in. And he said race tyre, he says he's very comfy with it, and as long as he doesn't make a mistake, he should be up there at the end.
Yes, it's Robertino Pietri, the Venezuelan, that is on the front row also. We'll catch up with him in a moment, and then we'll get down to the business. Here we have a 19-lap superbike race coming up to decide the CEV Repsol 2014 Championships.
Yeah, and here we are with Pietri.
Robertino Pietri, te suponemos con ganas de quitarte el mal sabor de boca de la segunda carrera de Portimao y poder acabar el año con un podio.
Sí, bueno, una lástima lo que pasó en Portimao porque éramos muy fuertes en la segunda carrera y eso nos quitó chances de campeonato, llegar aquí con chances del título. Hay que ver las cosas positivas, lo importante es que el equipo tiene chances de título con Kenny y esta carrera que clasificamos en primera fila, que nos sentimos fuertes, pero lo importante es cerrar el trabajo en equipo y hacer todo lo posible para que Kenny pueda ser campeón de España este fin de semana.
Gracias, suerte.
A very diplomatic answer there from Pietri, saying, look, you know, it's important to help his teammate Kenny Noyes because they obviously don't have a chance for the championship anymore, and also try to have a good race, finish on the podium to get rid of that bad taste from what happened in Portimao. Yep, and here we are with Kenny Noyes.
Kenny Noyes, estamos en el momento clave de la temporada. Poco que explicar, ¿cómo planteas la carrera?
Bueno, creo que dependemos de nosotros mismos. Tenemos la moto en el sitio como me gusta y creo que va a ser una bonita carrera en la que nos jugamos el título.
Pues mucha suerte.
Short and sweet there from Kenny Noyes, saying, look, we've got the bike how we want. It's down to us now. All we've got to do is try and win the race. Yeah.
Iván Silva ante el momento clave de la temporada, líder con 4 puntos sobre Kenny Noyes y toda una carta. ¿Cómo te lo planteas?
Bueno, seguro que se va a hacer una carrera muy larga. Estamos un poco retrasados en parrilla, pero porque nos centramos en conseguir unas muy buenas sensaciones para la carrera, creo que las tenemos. Y todo pasa por mantener la calma y saber dónde estamos en cada momento, dónde está nuestro rival y gestionar eso, nada más.
Gracias, suerte.
And here we speak to the final, to the championship leader, who says, look, didn't get it quite right in qualifying, but the bike is set up well for the race. He says, obviously, we've got to keep an eye out where our rivals are in the race, keep the concentration. But from what we've heard on the grid, everyone seems to be very happy with their race pace, so we might see quite a tight group up there.
Well, yeah, and that's always good news for us. There's nobody playing it down too much. Of course, I'm not quite sure I agree with what Carmelo Morales said. I would imagine that he would have probably been, all he is thinking about is the race win, knowing that that's what he's got to do. He's in such great form at the moment, Morales, and he's just looked so solid as ever on the bike whenever we've been watching him so far this weekend also, Dylan.
Yeah, exactly. And here we have someone who could play a big part, Angel Rodriguez. He was certainly classed as one of the big talents when he was younger. I think a bit of off-track problem certainly hindered his career progress, but he's on that Suzuki. We know it's generally slower than the other bikes, but he's also on Dunlops compared to Michelin's with the front runners, but he's sometimes got some absolutely amazing results out of that bike. He got one win at Albacete, and I think he's one of those guys who could, you know, not mess it up in terms of crash, but mess it up for the front runners in terms of really getting in their way.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on who your friends are. In that case, Angel Rodriguez we're talking about there, number 47, but this is how they line up. It is Santiago Barragan that will start from pole position ahead of Carmelo Morales, and then Robertino Pietri, Kenny Noyes there from the USA, and Ivan Silva. Those guys all in it for the championship. We've heard from all of them already. Rodriguez, we just spoke about there, will be starting from 6 on the grid. Then it's Rivas, Ramos, and Bjorn there, number 65, 9th on the grid.
Let's move on to row number 4. We have a Canadian in there. Chris Cotton right next to Alejandro Martinez, Mathieu Dumas just behind them, Antonio Alarcos, Sebastian Suchet and Nicolas Huer. And just behind that, we have Alexander Mateos, Pierre Texier and Guillermo Llano.
Further back on the grid there, Rodriguez, Kuparainen, the rider that's doing so well in the Privateer Championship here in the CEV Repsols and has had a couple of super stock thousands. Esteban, then Vione, Gomez. Further back as well, you've got Muller, the Danish rider, just on row 9, up ahead of Qatari rider.
And from row 10, Alberto Serrano. Next to him, Mauro Gonzalez and Daniel Torreño. Just behind on row 11, kicking that off, is Bergeron Lionel. We have Nico Mäkinen and Jorge Jaume. And the final row, Ryan Gibson, Cesar Tomé and Mika Höglund. Sorry, and two more. Brit Gregory as well as Spaniard Pascual rounding out row number 13.
Yeah, the two Brits there, Ryan Gibson and Neil Gregory, both riders that I've actually seen quite a bit of in British racing. They've had a couple of events with various championships, so they're certainly getting some experience here on this Valencian circuit. But all eyes really on the main protagonists for this championship. The riders that you need to look out for, just a reminder, number 22, Ivan Silva, the series leader. If he wins this race, he's champion. Forget anything else, the BMW man, number 22. Kenny Noyes, the American number 9 on the Kawasaki. Santiago Barragan, also on Kawasaki. Likewise for Carmelo Morales. Barragan is number 51, Morales number 31. It's difficult to call this one. There's a lot of people in the paddock, Dylan, that are suggesting that Carmelo Morales will run away with the win, and then it really just depends on what happens behind. But Santiago Barragan's pole came at the last minute and has maybe questioned a few of our predictions.
I think so. But the key for Barragan was he got that one hot lap in, and he got that in the Q1 practice in the morning. It was in the afternoon where people didn't seem to be able to drop much further. And I think one thing which people are basing these facts on is the race pace. Carmelo Morales really did seem to be the fastest guy out there, just putting in those consecutive laps. But as we know, track conditions are ever so slightly different. It is that little bit warmer today, so it might favour some of the other riders who weren't quite up there. I think it was both Barragan and Pietri, their race pace looked almost to be a tad slower than that of Kenny Noyes and Ivan Silva. So I think it's going to be so dependent on the start. How are they going to get through those first couple of turns? And as we saw in Moto3, certainly not always the easiest task here.
No, it's certainly not. And on the bigger machines, turns 1 and 2 are absolutely crucial. Where you've seen a few moves in the Moto3 race in certain corners are just simply not possible on these big 1000cc motorcycles. As we see there, number 51, Santiago Barragan. A reminder that both Barragan, number 51, and 31, Carmelo Morales, to win the CEV Repsol Superbike Championship, have to win. It's 25 points available for win, 20 for second, and the pair of them are 21 and 24 points behind overall.
And they would need something to happen with Ivan Silva and Kenny Noyes.
Ivan Silva there, you can see just in the centre of your picture, bright yellow helmet, number 22. There's number 4, Robertino Pietri, teammate of Noyes, and that is one thing that we should remember throughout this race. Noyes has got a friend out there.
He's got a friend.
Be perfect for him.
Pietri's told us on the grid, I'm racing to help the team. And I think in recent times, especially for you, Steve, in the World Superbike paddock, that's been the talk of, that's been the talk of many commentators at the moment, especially on green Kawasaki's.
No comment.
No comment, okay.
Oh, no, this is a problem. Is that Santiago Barragan? Is that Barragan's machine that they're struggling to get started? If so, he will have to start from pit lane. And away we go, and that is big news already. Away we go down into turn 1, and it is Kenny Noyes that's got off to the best start there, number 9, and he will take a huge lead into turn 1.
Had no one in front of him then. I mean, that was a real shock there. What happened with Barragan as they go into turn 2? At the moment, everything looks clean. Good news there from the Superbike field.
Well, he must have stalled the bike as he managed to get down onto pole position. Either way, he's wheeled it down pit lane. He's going to start from there. Maybe he had a problem. Either way, it's Kenny Noyes that leads, and it's his teammate, Robertino Pietri, in second place. It's almost the perfect dream start for the Kawasaki team.
Exactly. Pietri can now slow up the rest of the grid. If Valencia's taught us one thing, even some of the GP races in the past, if you've got someone who's quick and someone who, but someone who's very good and can manage that race, you would think Pietri would have been told, slow up the other guys, make it impossible for them to pass. Noyes, he just has to run his own race now.
Noyes then it is that leads this race, and as it stands in the early stages, he would be champion if it finished like this. Carmelo Morales is in 3rd place, and then it's Ivan Silva, the BMW rider, in 4th. As we head around this tight right-hander.
Just with the Suzuki of Angel Rodriguez squeezed in just behind him. You do wonder what Rodriguez can do. We know he's ever so slightly down on horsepower, and it already looks like Pietri is slowing things up.
Oh, Barragan, no. And of course he had to start from pit lane to try and chase, and any chances he had of winning this championship have gone up in smoke now. Unfortunately, Barragan, what a disastrous start. You've got to feel sorry for him.
I mean, look, this is clearly frustration. He's clearly looks like he's dropped the bike there. We haven't had confirmation, but he's in the gravel trap, and I think a lot of that would have been born from bad start, need to make up time, and that can be so tough. But I think we saw earlier Morales already looked a little bit over the rear wheel of Pietri, but Pietri seems to have pulled out just a little bit of a lead once more.
Well, our 4 championship contenders already down to 3 then as we start lap 2 of 19 here. Long race this for the Superbike boys. Tyres could come into play in the latter stages as well, but Noyes here, well, the pack is being bunched up slightly. Robertino Pietri here doing everything he can to fend off Carmelo Morales, but of all the riders that you're going to try and fend off, he is not going to be the easiest one.
Well, this has got to be one of these situations which is very difficult, because you need to try and run the pace that your teammates running at the front, but at the same time think about blocking the corner. So if he was to just copy Kenny Noyes' line, arguably he's leaving himself open to be passed. So he's got to be thinking about following and blocking. So certainly a tough job there.
Of course, Kenny Noyes, son of Dennis Noyes, and we caught up with Dennis earlier this morning and asked if he was nervous. He said, "It's caught my attention,"
it's caught my
which I thought was a perfect response.
Extremely diplomatic there. No, Dennis, absolutely great guy, so knowledgeable, I'm sure, you know. And, you know, you must be nervous as a dad, you know, no matter how much bike racing you watch and commentate on, I'm sure when it's your son out there, regardless if your son is over 30, you're still going to feel the same, I'm sure, as if he was 15 years old.
There is the confirmation at the moment. Championship standings on lap 2 of 19. It's too early to really call, but Noyes would be crowned champion by 8 points ahead of Ivan Silva. Further back there, number 47, you mentioned Angel Rodriguez earlier on the Suzuki, and he is starting to close in now.
Yep, and it looks like we have the BMW of Dani Rivas coming through. Some of the guys who may have been watching the Moto2 series last year might remember Rivas.
Oh, here comes Camilo Morales, and he's made his move into turn 2.
Turn 2, classic passing point there, classic passing point.
And now he hunts down Kenny Noyes. Now, the good news from Kenny Noyes' point of view is if Camilo Morales was to get past him, but here comes Silva as well, and the championship men now making their move.
Yep, it's all going out. I wouldn't have expected it this early on, but these guys clearly have their pace. They told us on the grid, they know their race pace, they know what these tyres can do. They cannot be caught up by that.
It's quite a simple situation for these guys. It won't be too tough for them to work out in their heads. Camilo Morales knows he's got to win the race if he wants any chance. Ivan Silva knows he's got to finish ahead of Kenny Noyes. At the moment, if Kenny Noyes wins the race, Silva would lose out on that 4-point championship lead.
Well, exactly. You could almost argue having Morales there would be good, because he's certainly going to give Silva a bit of a tow. And I think from what we've seen, it doesn't look like Noyes is going to be capable of dropping off Morales unless Morales makes some kind of mistake. But in the background, as we were talking, we also had Dani Rivas coming up. There was in the Moto2 class until a very unfortunate crash during a practice start in Silverstone, dropped back down to the Spanish Championship. Rivas in 6th place in the championship, not in with a chance, but he could be one of those guys on a good day. He could mess things up ever so slightly for the front runners.
We just saw there in 3rd place Ivan Silva, the championship leader, number 22, really leaving a big black line around turn 13. These monstrous bikes here, so impressive around there. But across the line we go to begin lap 4 of 19, and it's still Kenny Noyes at the moment, number 9, the 35-year-old that has this lead.
And looking at the lap times there, Morales is about 3/10 faster than everyone else out there, just put in the fastest lap of the race. So I think that's Morales showing, look, Kenny, I am going to get you. I just need to know when to pass you.
And he's done it into turn 4. He's run really wide.
Very wide.
That is dangerously wide, given what we've seen so far this weekend. And that's allowed Ivan Silva through. And that is excellent stuff from the BMW rider. The championship leader has capitalised there. Meanwhile, there's another BMW rider further back.
I think we were just talking about Rivas.
And that is him, isn't it?
That looks like Dani Rivas.
And Silva there out of the saddle. We have got some close racing at the front here. But that was neatly done by Ivan Silva. He saw a slight gap and he capitalised immediately, and that's the way to do it in this sort of race, especially around Valencia. You don't get too many opportunities that come up. He saw the gap, he took it.
No, absolutely fantastic riding there. You've got to be such an opportunist, as they say. But Morales, you know, just as we said, he'd put in the fastest lap. Maybe he just got that little bit too overconfident. But I'd be very surprised if he didn't try and fight back very soon. But what's great now is we have the real shootout. We have 2nd in the championship leading, 1st in the championship chasing. Both guys need to win, and we arguably have one of the fastest guys sat right behind them in 3rd. I think we couldn't have asked for a better situation at this part of the race.
Absolutely perfect from where I'm sitting, Dylan. As they come past our commentary box here and begin lap 5 of 19. It is Kenny Noyes that has this lead ahead of Ivan Silva there on the BMW. It's Kawasaki, BMW and Kawasaki. Morales here getting a bit impatient, getting a bit wild down into turn 1 there, just offline. Of course, he was pretty lucky, actually, when he went up the inside of Kenny Noyes into turn 4, because it does drop away from you there, and we've seen so many people losing the front end. This is the corner we're talking about.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, you know, he generally is quite a wild sort of rider. I think anyone who maybe watches a bit of MotoGP, you could say he's got a bit more of a Marquez style. He seems to have the bike a little bit more loose under him. Seems comfortable with that, whereas the riders out in front just a tad smoother, but certainly lucky there. They've obviously got these fatter tyres. They're not quite like the Moto3 bikes, but even so, you know, we've seen how easy it is to lose the front there, and you can now tell, look, he's already made up ground. He's right on the back wheel there of Ivan Silva, and Silva's not really going to want him to get past, because if Noyes already has a little bit of a gap, Silva does not does not want to be losing Noyes at the front.
And of course, you're looking at three men here who all know what it's like to win CEV championships as well.
Yes, yes.
So they've all got the experience there, although Kenny Noyes' last CEV championship win was back in 2003, so he'll really be hungry for this bit. Here comes Ivan Silva now. I thought he might look up the inside, and he's going to struggle to get that BMW stopped. There's tension down in pit lane.
Well, I was more concerned about Morales right on the back wheel there. We saw what, not giving too much away, but we had a bit of an incident in Moto3 in the race exactly into that turn. And here we have Silva up the inside of Noyes for the first time into turn 1. Can he make it stick? Yes, he does. Is Noyes going to fight back though in turn 2? Favourite passing place.
Oh, he's not quite done it, but they're going to have to be careful because Morales is hungry now as well, and that will have certainly woken up Kenny Noyes. He knows exactly who that is that's just gone past him. It's the championship leader. They go into turn 4 here, and Noyes straight up the inside. What a lovely move that was by the American, and that is a perfect move.
Kept it so tight, and well done to Silva for not running out too much. Having a bit of a word. Bad
news, Ivan Silva. You've got Camelo. I often wonder why riders do look over their shoulders, because often it does end like that, and maybe he's got problems here, Dylan. There's a couple of times now he's looked over his shoulder, or maybe he's just trying to work out how many is in this group.
Do you remember he said to us on the grid, he was the only guy to have said, you've got to keep an eye on where riders are, what the championship position is. So I think maybe he's overthinking this. I think he runs a risk of overthinking it too much, because yes, it doesn't matter if Morales is out front, but the guy he needs to beat is now 2 bikes in front. That's the issue here.
Exactly, 100% agree with you, Dylan. It doesn't really matter who's behind you. The man that could upset your championship most is leading the race. He's the one you need to try and hunt down.
But of course, if Morales was to take the race win, and then we had Noyes in second and Ivan Silva in third, there'd be a 4 points differential. That would still give the win to Kenny Noyes, because Noyes has won more races.
You mean they'd be level on points after that?
Yes, they would be level, and the win would go to Noyes because of the amount of wins he has.
Well, this is the eventuality that we've got here right now, as Carmelo Morales has pulled out of the slipstream and leads Kenny Noyes, who runs just slightly wide on the exit there, and so does Morales. It is Carmelo Morales that leads this race. Now, Kenny Noyes won't be too upset by this, because Carmelo Morales is the man on form at the moment. He can't really affect his championship unless Noyes was to make a mistake.
He's still looking at the timesheets. He was the only one to drop into the 135s, the only one to be in the 135s on that particular lap. So Morales clearly showing he's got a couple of tenths on these guys. If you were Noyes now, as long as you can keep Silva behind you, you'd argue, look, get the toe off Morales. Now, lots of people often ask me, yeah, but these bikes, they don't really get a toe. It's not quite like Moto3 with the slipstream, but some of the riders have said, get a mental toe. You yourself relax a little bit more when you use the others as more of a reference point, and you're not having to lead by yourself.
Well, but I can assure you there is definitely a chance to get the toe. If you get turn 13 right and you get in the bubble of these machines ahead of you, it's like a steam train situation. You really do get tugged along, and then you just have to pick the right moment to pull out in order to capitalise. Morales it is that leads then, who's won a CEV championship now 4 times in his career. He's also a European champion as well. He knows how to win these, and there you see some beautiful shots there, and Ivan Silva really struggling. There's a rider who's gone down further back. That is number 21, Jonathan Martinez, who's gone down. Let's see what happened there.
One of the privateers on the Suzuki just...
low siding, and that is a classic example. In fairness, that was as soft a fall as you'd want there, but that was one of those unusual moments where you've lost the front end. He's desperately trying to pick the bike back up on his knee. It's just not quite happened for him. They're heavy machines, these.
We already see, look at this, Morales already pulling a gap. We're only 1 lap further on. Look, he's just set the fastest race lap, a 1:35.009. Almost looks to be dropping into the 1:34s, and going on the times that we saw yesterday, certainly yesterday afternoon. This is now faster than Morales's qualifying time. The only man to set a faster lap all weekend is Santiago Barragan with a 1:34.7, but unfortunately he has crashed out of the race, no longer in contention.
We shouldn't forget here that Kenny Noyes and Ivan Silva have a bit of history in this championship as well. They're not afraid to put a move on each other.
No, not at all, not at all. It's a good rivalry to have. I think there's enough respect there to not be a dangerous kind of move, but yeah, it's 100%. certainly elbows out, no worries whatsoever.
Carmelo Morales it is that has the lead. He needs to just win this race and hope that certainly 1 or 2 moves go on further behind him. Kenny Noyes at the moment will know already that second place is good enough for him in the championship, provided it isn't Ivan Silva ahead of him, which it isn't. Here he is at the BMW rider, just tucked up behind.
Well, you're now going to be thinking, I'm sure that especially Noyes and especially Silva will be thinking about tyre conservation. They would have done the long runs during training. They'll know roughly what pace they can run towards the end of the race, and you're going to want to try and keep a lot, you know, arguably a little bit more in the tank if you need to be fighting. And something, you know, people may have heard Michelin will be the sole tyre supplier in MotoGP for 2016, and also the rim size is going up from 16.5 inches to 17, and Michelin are already using this particular championship to already start a little bit of development for the tyres they'll be using in GP, so we know for a fact that these guys are on some very, very good tyres out there.
Ivan Silva in third, just slipping away now from the leading group, and Kenny Noyes seems to have closed in Carmelo Morales out front.
Well, yeah, if we look last time out, last lap, it was actually Noyes who was half a second faster than Ivan Silva. So Noyes now dropping down into the low 35, Silva still in the mid 135. So whether this is Noyes just saying, look, I've got something in the tank. Talking about tank, obviously they're almost going to be on the half the fuel load that they would have started on. So the front end's going to be a little bit lighter, not quite as heavy, maybe give them that little bit more feel, a little bit more confidence. Well,
Carmelo Morales will certainly use his experience as well, and he'll know, certainly when we get towards the closing stages of this race, if nothing's changed, he might be in a position where he might just want to draw Silva closer to Noyes to try and get something to develop, because it's all well and good winning the race, but you need something to happen behind you here.
Yeah, well, yeah. As it stands now, Morales could have won the most races in the CEV Repsol Championship and not be champion, and that must be highly frustrating. Yeah, he's just got to slow them down, like you say, get Silva to try and run it up the inside. But as we're seeing now, look, there's a big gap developing. That's not going to be easy.
No, it's not, but he needs to maybe cast his mind back to Valencia, MotoGP 2013, Jorge Lorenzo.
Lorenzo slowing it down so much. I mean, that was an absolute masterclass. But again, Morales told us he's not thinking about...
Noyes there running wide into turn 2, and so he's lost a bit of momentum. He had a look over his shoulder. He can see that he's still got this advantage over Ivan Silva, but that was an error there from the American.
Yeah. Just going back to Morales. Morales said, look, we're not thinking about numbers, we're just thinking about the win. And you know, if that's what the team said, if his pit board isn't telling him slow the pace, then I don't think he's the kind of person who's going to be doing that. Because if they've not worked out that kind of tactic, it's very tough to execute just by being out there riding. I mean, you know what it's like, Steve. You don't exactly go through too many things in your head at that time.
No, to be honest, just staying on and actually trying not to get lapped was usually my target. Kenny Noyes at the moment it is then that would lead the championship or win the championship, despite being on the same amount of points as Ivan Silva, due to the count back of victories he's had so far this season. Quick recap on riders that have gone down and out of the race. Antonio Alakos went down earlier on. We had Barragan, of course, with all sorts of dramas on the opening lap. Chris Cotton, Ryan Gibson, the Brit, has gone down. Martinez we saw go down earlier as well, but he has rejoined. Danny Rivas, who we saw going down, has actually recovered up to 15th place at the moment, and leading the privateers, because there is another race within this race, is the Norwegian rider Ollie Bjornar Plassen, who's in 7th place overall, number 65. Across the line we go to start lap 11. It's Carmelo Morales, number 31, that leads ahead of Kenny Noyes and Ivan Silva. As it stands, Noyes would be champion.
Noyes would be champion, but Noyes obviously slowed down on this lap. That mistake cost him almost 7/10 of a second. Morales incredibly consistent there in the 35 zeros. That's just, you know, absolutely phenomenal when you see a rider do that. And then we have Noyes lost a bit of time. Ivan Silva, he doesn't quite look to have the pace of those front runners. He's about 4/10 off, and you know, we can't take Noyes' last lap as a reference because he made that error. But Silva just not looking quite in the zone, so it'll be interesting to see whether he's got anything in the reserve tank just for the very end.
I find it unlikely to assume that he might be able to do that, because if you look at his results throughout the season, it's consistency that's got him here. He's not quite sometimes just had that edge to be able to take it to another level. Ivan Silva, we're talking about number 22, the championship leader, 32-year-old. Of course, he was 2011 Stock Extreme champion in CEV. He was European champion the same year. He was 3rd in this series last year when it was also named Stock Extreme. Kenny Noyes there though, the 35-year-old. It was 2003 the last time he won a CEV championship, and of course, despite the fact that he hails from the USA, he spent the vast majority of his life here in Spain.
I was almost going to say after the interview, some of our viewers might be wondering why is the American talking Spanish, and yeah, like you say, it is because he's based here, and up until very recently it was a Spain-based championship. Now, of course, it's the international championship because we now do trips into Le Mans in France. Also, as we saw the previous round in Portimao, very much changing the landscape of this championship, but still absolutely fluent in Spanish. His accent is probably more Spanish than his American accent. So.
Well, here we see Carmelo Morales here into turn 4, the tricky turn 4. There's Kenny Noyes. He's just dealt with a back marker, and that didn't fall in the right place for him. Ivan Silva there capitalising as well, and maybe Ivan Silva's ears have just pricked up a little bit now, Dylan. He just seems on this last few corners to have closed in on the Kawasaki.
Now we got 7.5 laps remaining, and one lap I always think, one race that I always think back to. I think it was 2012 in Jerez in MotoGP, where we had Jorge Lorenzo a long way back, and the team specifically said to us afterwards, we set the bike up for the last 5 or 6 laps on an almost empty tank to almost be running qualifying kind of pace. And I remember he actually won that race in the end because he just got the hammer down. He just, they set the bike up for the lighter fuel load, for the used tyres. So we never know, because Silva's, his body language has almost looked too calm for the position that he's been in, unless his team isn't telling him that this position is not good enough.
Well, maybe we're not giving him enough credit and he has a master plan or an ace up his sleeve. We will certainly find out. There is second place man number 9, Kenny Noyes. We're talking about him and Ivan Silva in second and third. They are, at the moment, the 2 men that can win this championship. Morales, the leader there, number 31, could win, but he needs both of these guys, realistically, not to feature where they are at the moment, as Silva there, the back wheel traditionally coming up in the air, under braking into turn 1.
Yeah, it's a slight downhill, not always that obvious on the camera shots, but then that climb back up to turn number 2, which is actually very, very tight looking turn. It sometimes looks a bit wider on TV.
Yes, it is much sharper than it actually looks when you go over there to watch, or indeed get yourself around this circuit. And then around turn 4 and 5 before leading yourself up to a very important corner here at turn 6. This, of course, leads you onto that short back straight, so really important to get the drive and your line right here.
Yeah, going up the hill, and then they go into the Curva de Afición, that is the fans' corner, until they have to stand the bike up ever so briefly, get hard on the brakes down into that turn 8, and it's after here, Steve, where you say it's that left-right flick of 9 and 10 where it's so difficult to make any kind of move on people.
Well, the biggest problem is with turns 9 and 10. Turn 10 looks like a lovely corner, looks like an ideal overtaking place, but because of where turn 9 is located, you clip the apex of that, there is no room past, so you can get yourself up close, ready for a move perhaps into here, turns 12 and then on to 13. But yeah, it's sometimes a very frustrating waiting game as a rider following somebody else, trying to find that move.
No, of course, and it's going to be so interesting when they cross the line this time, because last time out it was actually Ivan Silva who was 2/10 faster than Kenny Noyes. So this is going to give us a real indication as to how quick those guys are on the last lap, who's actually upping their pace, who's not. So Morales is starting to drop off. He's going into the mid-35s. Noyes did squeeze out a couple of tenths again to go back up to a 35.4, and Ivan Silva is now matching him. Ivan Silva has almost had an identical pace with Kenny Noyes, so we're seeing Ivan Silva really upping his pace. Those couple of tenths that he needs, matching Kenny Noyes. Can he now fight up and try and race with him?
Of course, you've got tail enders to consider here as well, so that's something else that could come into play. You have to deal with those in the right way. But Morales, as you say, at the moment so far in control of this race. Kenny Noyes doing what he needs to do in second. 3 very different riding styles here from the 3 riders. Silva very much more relaxed on that BMW.
Yes, yeah, much smoother, isn't it? It's a much smoother style, but I wonder what's now going to happen. We're now coming up against the back markers, and I really hope from a racing point of view that no back marker has any kind of play in the outcome of this race, in this championship. It's just too important for one person to be blocked, either Kenny Noyes so that others can catch up, or the other way around, holding up Ivan Silva once Noyes has passed. I mean, we've got an awful lot here. Let's hope that they can all see those blue flags that will be waving at the marshal post, telling them, make way, let these guys through, they are quicker than you.
Here we go into the final corner then for Carmelo Morales. And on to the start-finish straight to begin. Lap 15 of 19. the four-time CEV champion, trying to make it 5. Kenny Noyes goes across the line in second place, a 35.7 for him, but a 35.4 for Ivan Silva this time around, number 22.
And you do wonder how much of that was trying to get past the back markers, how much of that was outright pace. It was good to see Ivan Silva manage to just squeeze past one of them there into turn 1. Probably he might be a little bit upset that the back marker didn't back off just a tiny little bit, because he did look like he had to make a real pass into turn 1. But look, it's still good practice. You know, he might be planning to do that on Noyes in the last lap.
And this is a situation now for Ivan Silva, which is always quite nice to see as a rider. You're looking up ahead of you, you can see yourself inching closer and closer. It's one thing catching someone, though, around this Valencia circuit. Passing is another entirely. So we could see a proper ding-dong going on here for the actual championship overall for 2014. It's been a long season for these guys, an international CEV championship, as Dylan mentioned earlier. We've gone to Le Mans, we've been to Portimao. It's been ups and downs for many of these riders. Noyes earlier in the season looked very strong until that fall, and then it just sort of peaked off a little.
Yep, and Morales with that very unfortunate crash in Catalonia. I remember I was watching that live on TV. It was almost an inexplicable place to be crashing on the last lap, and to break both your ankles, obviously horrific kind of injury. So to come back and to win 3 races on a trot, I mean that just really shows the guy's caliber.
Here we go then, Morales onto the start-finish straight now, and he is being caught here by Kenny Noyes in second place. Across the line we go for number 31, 35.1 for him, 35 flat, and the fastest lap of his race so far for Kenny Noyes.
Yeah, very fast, and Ivan Silva 6/10 slower, so Silva got 2/10 slower, and it was Noyes who actually upped his pace by about 4/10. So this is quite a telling sign whether Noyes just got the hurry up there.
Oh, I'm just wondering, you know, if I think Camilo Morales ran really wide on the exit of turn 2, he did, and now Kenny Noyes can almost sniff out here the race lead, which would make a dramatic difference. If he can get a bite between him and Ivan Silva, that makes life all the more difficult for number 22 on the BMW.
Well, yeah, Morales certainly slowing off there a little bit. You don't know, maybe did he use his tyres up a little bit too much at the start?
Very possible. 19 laps is quite a long time for these 1000cc motorcycles going around this Valencian circuit, so let's see whether or not he has got any tyres left. Noyes certainly closing in there. Number 9, we're talking about the Kawasaki rider, who at the moment is already in a championship winning position. He won't want to do anything too silly at this point.
No, exactly. He knows this position is good enough. It would be very, very interesting to see his pit board right now. What is his pit board telling him? Are they saying, look, go for the win? Are they telling him, what's the gap to Silva? Look, he's got a second. He's got a second, which doesn't sound very much, but in a superbike race, you could argue that's, I don't want to say a comfortable buffer, but it's a reasonable one.
His pit board needs to be telling him where Silva is. Silva is the danger man. He's the man that could really upset things in this championship. He doesn't want to get himself involved too much in any moves here with Morales, unless it's laid on a plate for him.
No, because Morales has to win. He knows that he has to win. He's not going to give this win to Noyes. So if Noyes tries to stab it up the inside, I guarantee you Morales will be straight back in the next corner, unless there's something seriously wrong with his tyres.
There's a lot of movement going on down in pit lane in front of us here in the commentary box. There's people a bit worried. There's obviously the teams of the championship rivals here, all willing their man on, and Silva's blown it. Silva's gone down, trying to catch the championship leader. Number 22 is down and out, and his championship has gone away from him. He was going to have to try and catch Kenny Noyes anyway, and he can barely believe it as he runs over to his bike, and that's the end. I'm sorry, I don't think you're going to be riding that, Ivan. It doesn't matter anyway, that is it. And let's just see what happened here. Down into turn 4. Well offline, well offline.
Very, very far out to the left, almost hugging the curb on the left-hand side there.
Yeah, he was, I mean, that part of the circuit, I mean, he's trying to ride that back. That is ridiculous almost, trying to get that bike back. It's over, I'm afraid, Ivan. And now Kenny Noyes knows that all he's got to do is finish this race. His pit board, his crew need to be telling him exactly what's just gone on behind him.
He's got to cruise home. He's just got to manage that. You've got to think, any pride you've got needs to go out the window now. Just bring it home safely.
That's all he's got to do. If he falls, Camilo Morales is in a championship winning position.
Yes.
It's so all drama here. It's a sad day for Ivan Silva fans, though. The Targo Bank Motorsport BMW rider has gone down, and that is his championship gone. I say it's his championship gone, but
sorry, you're right.
He is still championship leader. If both of these guys out front were to tussle,
of course,
they were to go down, Silva would still be crowned champion. So it's not quite over until the fat lady sings.
Very true. And it just looked like such a strange crash. We've seen guys losing the front when they're completely leant over in the apex. You can say maybe slightly cold tyre, maybe slightly worn, but his bike was almost upright. It's almost like he just braked on the white line or even on the curb. It's very strange.
Very odd crash for an experienced rider. And Kenny Noyes has certainly been given some information. He's looking over his shoulder. He's starting to roll off. Now, this is just as important to remain... give yourself all the concentration possible, because when you roll off, it's not natural.
You can't lose heat in the tyres. Many people who may have watched the Phillip Island Moto GP round, for instance, Marquez lost the front. He was absolutely dominant, and he rolled off and just went two tenths a lap slower and lost the front because the tyre was just those few degrees colder. So, but you do hope someone experienced like Kenny Noyes can manage this without any kind of incident. But look at that, Morales last lap, a 34.9. That is spectacular, putting in the fastest lap of the race right at the very end.
Carmelo Morales here, the 36-year-old on the Calvo team, Kawasaki, 4-time champion in the CEV class, as I've already mentioned before. It doesn't look like it's going to quite happen for him today, but he's about to start the last lap, and he's done his job. He knew that he had to win this race and hope that things happen behind him. Well, they have in a way. Ivan Silva, the championship leader coming into this final round, has gone down and out. This man here, though, Kenny Noyes.
Look at that, a 37.9. He's dropping his pace by almost 3 seconds, and you do hope that that's not dropping too much.
Let me tell you, this will be the longest lap of Valencia that Kenny Noyes has ever
Very
completed.
true. Well, let's see. I'm sure we'll be following him round for most of it.
The rider that, of course, is American, but has been living in Spain most of his life. The 35-year-old who's second overall coming into this weekend. 35 GP starts in his time. His best ever was a 5th here in Valencia in 2011. He was the 2003 CEV stock champion, and he was 3rd place in the CEV Moto 2 Championship in 2012. The son of Dennis here, he'll definitely be nervous down on pit wall at this moment in time.
Extremely nervous. Yeah, you've got to feel for Dennis. You've got to feel for most of the team in these kind of situations. But it looks safe. It looks safe. I mean, I think Silva gave us quite a shock, but it looks like Noyes is taking things easy enough, yet still with enough pace to maintain that heat in the tyres. I mean, look. He's looking round. He needn't worry though. He's got his teammate right behind him.
Don't you start those wheelies. Don't you start those wheelies just yet, Kenny. Here we go then. Around turn 13, Carmelo Morales. Well, he's done everything he needs to do. He was told that he had to win and hope that things happen behind him. He's having a look to see who's there. He knows that Ivan Silva isn't, but it's all about Kenny Noyes. Here we go across the line then. Morales wins here in the Superbike race across the line, but your 2014 CEV Repsol Superbike champion is number 9, Kenny Noyes, and it's 11 long years since he's been a champion of this class, but he's finally got it there and he looks delighted. His teammate there, Robertino Pietri,
did exactly what he had to do. He said, I need to finish on the podium, try and help my teammate. Okay, he couldn't help maybe in the race, but he stopped anyone from blocking off any other kind of points. But no, fantastic news there for the American. Really kept a very level head, and nice to see there. Look, Morales giving him a hug, Pietri as well. I think Morales knows, yes, I've probably won more races, but look, Noyes has just had, he's won a lot of races too, but also been that much more consistent, steered clear of injury.
A few rounds ago, Carmelo Morales would not have even thought about the championship. He would have just been worried about getting back to full fitness. It was only the events of Portimao that's put him in this position. Well, we can't see anything at the moment because of the burnouts going on.
Prize for best burnout does go to, let's have a look. Wow, does go to Noyes.
Superb scenes here for Kenny Noyes, who's just absolutely destroyed that Michelin rear. So you're not
so
going to
no development work going on that one. Oh yes, you seem to have a lot of wear in the centre part here.
Well, there you see happiness there with the Kawasaki, the Palmato squad.
Yeah, thoroughly deserved. I think put in an absolutely fantastic season, and he's not going to have any tyre left whatsoever.
That will go pop in a minute if you're not careful.
I love seeing that though. I know I know in the World Championship they actually forbid them, because I know there have been a few incidents, shall we say, you know, a few safety incidents. But it's fantastic. Just a good part of bike racing. I'm sure you used to do them as well after races.
I had very little to celebrate, Dylan, so it was rare that I did the burnouts. But either way, you can understand the jubilation here for Kenny. Of course, he's been a long servant to the CEV Repsol Championship, so this will mean the world to him. Of course, here's Robertino Pietri, the Venezuelan, who ends his season on a high. I'm just going to check the points table, because Pietri's 16 points there. Will it put him ahead of? It'll put him ahead of Barragan.
Yeah, put him ahead of Barragan.
And so he'll get fourth in the championship.
Yes, yeah.
With that, and of course, sadness for him that he went out in the second race in Portimao. That really affected his chances of being able to fight for this overall. And commiserations also, Dylan, to Ivan Silva, who was obviously keen to try and catch down and hunt down Kenny Noyes. It just didn't quite happen for him, and maybe a question over tactics.
Question over tactics, but I think we can't question his heart. I think he knew that he was a little bit down on the times. But you know, look, he tried his best. So this is the final result of the race, of the Superbike race here. Carmelo Morales winning ahead of the new champion Kenny Noyes. Robertino Pietri rounding out the podium. Then in fourth, Roman Ramos. Fifth, Angel Rodrigo. Sixth, Olevion. Seventh, Alejandro Martinez. Eighth, Dani Rivas. And ninth, Nicolas Bouer.
Yes, Ole Plassen there, also the winner of the privateers class ahead of Martinez. Further back there in 10th place for Lano, and then Matios, Texler, Dumas, Juan Gomez, Dia Lucia. We've got also Esteban Kuparainen, the Finnish rider, and another European Superstock 1000 rider for this season, Sebastian Suchet, with another taste of a Spanish circuit. Some more experience here for him on the BMW. Well, it promised to be something quite special, and we were certainly given lots to think about throughout the race. 4 riders can't win the championship, only one can be crowned champion, and Kenny Noyes has done just about everything right here today.
I think, you know, sometimes these races have sort of stretched a little bit, but I think what we saw today was a great bit of tactical riding. We saw some unfortunate crashes, but we saw really guys pushing to their absolute limits, and you know, this is what racing's all about, and I love it when it comes down right until the very end. We just, you know, this one kept us on our seats.
It did. There's Carmelo Morales, who won the race outright, and well, he's won more races than anyone else this season, that's for sure. 4-time champion in CEV. This year not to be his year. Maybe we're almost certain that he'll be coming back next year to fight for this championship again. This
is arguably his, well, I don't want to say it's his championship now, it's Kenny's championship, but you know, himself, Kenny, Ivan Silva, you know, these guys, they're the staples of it. You know, this is their battleground. They can't go. If they go, we've got to find them and say, look boys, you need to come back, because they are such a big part of it. And the reason why we're not seeing Kenny Noyes in Parc Ferme yet is because he's still celebrating. Well, understandably, understandably, you know, they got the American flag out, and look, here we have Morales in pit lane, no doubt emotional. I mean, he's done everything. He's done absolutely everything he could. He's now won 5 races, and he's only finished 6. He's finished 6 races, and he's won 5 of them. And in the one he didn't win, he came second.
Of course, he's had such a great career in terms of the CEV championship over the years, but he's had a couple of wildcard appearances in GPs and a few World Superbike wildcards. Maybe not on the machinery that would have enabled him to have been competitive.
No,
if you know what I mean.
No, I understand, and I think it's often tough from people on the outside. I think even for us, you know, you look at a bike from the outside, you read what tyres they have, what's the horsepower. Say, well, look, why can you win here? Why can't you dominate the other series? But I think sometimes the machinery, and especially when you go up to the World Championship classes, so often electronics play a big part. So much more money goes into that bike, and just to squeeze out, you know, I think those extra few tenths probably cost a couple of 100,000 more, if not more, and that's often where the big difference is. And now we're down with the race winner.
Carmelo Morales, enhorabuena, una nueva victoria a tu palmarés. ¿Qué difícil situación has tenido que gestionar para no interferir en la lucha entre Kenny e Iván?
La verdad que sí, porque o sea, primero lo tenía controlado, pero cuando me ha pasado el Iván ya he dicho, uy, ahora tengo que ir con más cuidado. Pero Iván me ha dejado pasar porque sabía que mi intención era irme y bueno, me ha dejado pasar Iván. Después he pasado a Noyes y he empezado a tirar fuerte, pero al final con los doblados me he desconcentrado un poco, he visto una curva que me he ido largo y he cometido algún error y me ha recuperado otra vez Kenny, pero he forzado, he hecho mi vuelta rápida personal, creo, y luego he visto que la última vuelta Kenny ha aflojado, o sea que... muy feliz por despedir el año así y bueno, he quedado subcampeón, me parece, con los puntos he quedado subcampeón, o sea que muy contento con este final de temporada. Y felicitar al campeón, ¿no? Ha hecho un buen año y nada, felicitar a él y a su equipo.
Gracias.
And it looks like now we're going to be talking with the champion himself.
Abrazándose con su jefe de equipo, el flamante campeón del FIM CEV Repsol de Superbikes. Kenny, por fin tu ansiado primer título internacional.
Muy contento, ha sido además una carrera durísima. Hemos rodado muy rápido, más rápido de lo que yo creía que iba a poder rodar. Ha sido genial. Sabía que Iván estaba ahí fuerte apretando y que mi baza era irme con Carmelo. Y nada, dar las gracias a todo el equipo. Ha sido una temporada dura porque hemos tenido momentos muy buenos y luego un par de caídas que nos han puesto en una situación complicada, pero me sabe a gloria, estoy contentísimo. Agradecer a todo el equipo, a los sponsors, a mi padre, a mi familia, a todo el mundo que me ha apoyado en los momentos más bajos y se lo dedico a ellos.
Y unas palabras en inglés dedicadas a tus compatriotas.
I'm real happy that came right down to the wire. I mean, that's why I race, you know, to be out there and give a chance to the title in the last race. And we were going a lot quicker than I thought my pace was going to be, but just kept my head down, kept pushing, and I knew Silva was back there. And as soon as I saw on the board that it had gone down or had a problem, I couldn't believe it. You know, I could just wanted those last laps to go by. Real happy. I want to thank Kawasaki, Michelin, the team, and my family for always helping me out.
Enhorabuena, gracias.
Wonderful scenes there, Dylan. Just give us an idea as to what Carmelo Morales said before that.
I think let's first of all let's have a look at some of the race highlights here.
Yeah, that was Santiago Barragan, of course, on the grid, lining up on pole position. Things didn't quite work out for him, unfortunately. We got away on the warm-up lap, and there was a problem immediately for him. He had to start from pit lane, and so Kenny Noyes was gifted this opportunity, a big gap ahead of him, and he took it. The Kawasaki rider knew that he had to win, he had to stay ahead of Ivan Silva. Meanwhile, Santiago Barragan, he also went down trying to catch back up again, having gone way back in the pack. Carmelo Morales was up into second place. There's Ivan Silva making a move on Robertino Pietri, and then Pietri fighting back again. This was a really strong move from Carmelo Morales. He was lucky to stay on though, running wide and then allowing Ivan Silva back up again. Ivan Silva then led for a brief time before Kenny Noyes made an excellent move into turn 4 to take the lead of the race. And all the time, number 31, Carmelo Morales regrouping. Silva had a cheeky look over his shoulder. It didn't work out, almost opened the door for Carmelo Morales. And I just wonder whether he did that tactfully to try and get Carmelo Morales to go out and lead and maybe hunt down Noyes. Either way, it was neatly poised still in the latter stages. Carmelo Morales did get out ahead of Kenny Noyes, but it was still in Kenny's hands in terms of the championship overall. They were level on points at this stage. And then some major drama here. First and second going through. Look at Ivan Silva going way wide into turn 4. That was championship over for the BMW rider, sadly for him. Coming into this round 4 points ahead. It was then given the information to Kenny Noyes and his pit board. Silva is out, cruise home in second. Morales it was that managed to go and take the overall victory. He'll have to wait another year to get his hands on the crown, but it is the USA's Kenny Noyes that is crowned the CEV Repsol 2014 Superbike champion.
Yeah, and there we had Morales congratulating him at the end. And it was Morales who was telling us, he said, look, he did get slightly worried when those other guys passed him. I think the words he used were, oh yeah, So he knew that he had to get the hammer down. Maybe not quite as tire smoking as we see here now, but he knew he had to get it down, pull out a lead. He said he lost concentration a little bit with the back markers, ran wide once, but then he regrouped, and look, ultimately he did what he had to do. Everything else was out of his hands.
Well, congratulations to Kenny Noyes. We're going to get the guys up onto the podium very shortly. Of course, it's a podium, the fourth podium of the season for Venezuelan rider Robertino Pietri. He gets himself third there, teammates with Kenny Noyes, his teammate in second, and of course the champion of 2014. You've also got there the race winner, just being congratulated, or just being hugged and embraced there by Pietri, Carmelo Morales. And on the right there in the red leathers is the winner of the privateers. That's Bjorn, the Norwegian Bjornaplassen. Ole Bjornaplassen, the 31-year-old experienced Ducati rider, in fact. Top three finish in the national championship for him this year, and winner of the privateers. 6th overall for Ole Bjornaplassen, so not too shabby at all. Third place award here being presented, sorry, the Privateer Cup being presented to Ole Bjornaplassen, and I'm sure we'll see him back fighting maybe for the overall Superbike Championship in 2014. Pietri, the Venezuelan, with his 4th podium of 2014. That's a proper moustache that he's growing there for November as well. Pietri in 3rd place. He looks absolutely delighted with that. Certainly a lot happier with today than he was back in Portimao. Kenny Noyes! Oh, that is a set of goggles. The American takes 2nd here in this race. It's his 7th podium in 10 races for 2014. That's enough to take him to the top of the list in terms of the championship. And then the winner here, more wins than anyone this season. Injury, however, has cost him the championship. Carmelo Morales back to winning ways. He'll have to wait now until 2015 before he can get himself in the frame for another CEV Repsol Championship. Well, apologies there. I mentioned that it was Ole Bjornaplassen down on the podium. For some reason, they've given the result to Martinez. So I'm not sure if there's been something technical that's gone on after that, or there's been a change. But either way, a change in the result there for the privateers. Either way, certainly no change in the top 3 here, and some fine goggles there for the man that will lift the CEV crown high here for this year. Here we get then confirmation of the championship standings at the end of 2014 season. Kenny Noyes, it is, victorious on the Kawasaki with 160, 15 clear in the end of Carmelo Morales. Then Ivan Silva in the end actually drops down to 3rd despite coming into the round as the leader overall. Robertino Pietri lifts himself ahead of Barragan for 4th, and Danny Rivas in 6th.
10th place goes to the Spaniard Alejandro Esteban ahead of Raúl Garcia, Alexander Marcos, Fabian Pasha, Alejandro Martinez, Guillermo Llano, the Spaniard, and Josh Wainwright, the Brit, in 10th ahead of Raúl Martinez, and Pierre Texler, the Frenchman, in 18th.
So that's it for the Superbike Championship for 2014. Many congratulations to Kenny Noyes. 11 years it's been since he last picked up the CEV crown, and now at the age of 35 he is champion of 2014 once more. And congratulations also to Dennis, his father, who we saw rather worried and anxious this morning. I'm sure he'll be celebrating with his son into the late hours here in Spain tonight.